Hello, welcome back to another episode of More Than Friends. My name is Tashi, and today I have a special guest, Whitney, with me. Tell them what you do.
Yeah, so I am a celebrity life coach. I help good-hearted artists, creatives, and influencers become famous, and then I also coach celebrities on maintaining and leveraging fame, because fame really is an energy, and it's about being able to hold the capacity to be seen by mass amounts of people and with more, I always say, like, new levels, new devils. So kind of at every level of your visibility, there's going to be new challenges, and it all comes back to mindset, which is really fun.
It's so cool because the more I've been researching what you're doing, it correlates so much with dating and all the things,
100%.
techniques I train people with dating. So I was like, perfect, we could talk about both.
Yes, no, 100%. And that's something that, like, I think a lot of people don't necessarily realize is that it is kind of a transferable skill. Like, once you know how to, like, and I don't know how you would describe it with dating, but with fame, it's about being magnetic and being open and being visible, being vulnerable. And a lot of people that I find, either they do know how to do that in dating, and so then we transfer that into their fame, or that's where they're blocked. They don't know how to do it in dating, and so then they also are shut down in their fame.
That was the most wild thing that I noticed, is the more I would help people is they could be amazing when it comes to making money, but then when it comes to dating, they're like, I don't even know how to, like, talk to a person.
No, they like glitch.
Like, wait, I can do pitch meetings, but I can't do this. Like,
but not that. No, for sure.
But yeah, so what got you to actually go towards teaching fame? Because everybody secretly wants it, but there's like a weird taboo about it.
I know. Yeah. So I started as an actor, and I really cut my teeth as an actor and filmmaker in New York City. And essentially so I found life coaching, I found mindset work after my dad passed away as just like a healing modality, and realized very quickly that, like, when you heal, that's when you then create more results in your life and your life opens up and stuff. So I got really into the mindset work, and then was able to combine that with the on-camera acting techniques and mindfulness skills, all of those things, and realize that what makes a scene magnetic is the same thing that makes a person magnetic, which is really just being in this hyper-present state. So kind of just combining both of those modalities, all of those worlds together, and then being brave enough to be like, I know you want to be famous. Because honestly, that was like the biggest barrier for me, was just admitting that.
Because everybody makes it seem like it's such a, like, selfish thing or like a weird thing to go after, but fame is really power. Like, it helps 100%. You in any business you're starting.
Exactly. Well, and that's the thing. Like, I mean, I don't think we can argue that, like, money is the most powerful resource in the world, but second to that is fame. And I also think that you can get access to places with fame that you can't necessarily get with money, if that makes sense.
For sure.
And or you can get places a lot faster. Like, I was actually just listening to Taylor Swift's The Last Great American Dynasty, which is talking about, like, new money. And, like, I think in the world, the more that I create more money, create more fame, I'm introduced to newer worlds. I didn't come from money. I didn't come from fame. And I think there's kind of this stigma against, like, new money or whatever. Yeah. But if you're famous, you can totally, like, skip that. People don't care.
Like, it's fine.
They're like, whatever, we want you in here, come here.
Yeah, I've seen that. I have a friend whose parents are well known, and he's like, they just get invited on all these trips and, like, with, like, these billionaires and things like that because they just want them around them.
100%. And I, like, that was the thing. I'm working on this new project, which is a complete departure of anything I've ever done before, but I want to raise money because it's a passion that I believe in. And it seems so out of left field. And I'm like, no, you don't know how many billionaires I know. You don't know how many multi-millionaires I know, because they just like having me around.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, it's wild. That's why I was like, I definitely want to deep dive. And it's funny because I'm like, as much as I was like excited to have you on, I was like, selfishly, it's for me as well.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
So say you were, like, going to coach someone, what would be, like, the first steps? Like, say it was me.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, first, I'm like, should I just coach you? Yeah. I think the first thing that I always recommend is that we kind of establish your target of where you're going. I think fame can kind of be nebulous. The same as, like, if people are saying, I want to be wealthy, there's not necessarily a number attached to that. The same with fame, but everyone has their own version of what is wealthy. Everyone has their own version of what is fame. Yeah. Something that I see a lot, though, is that as creatives, we want to, like, jump past, like, we don't actually think that we can get, like, a get rich quick scheme, but people do think, oh, I can just, like, jump, like, quantum leap, take this huge leap into all of a sudden being, like, the biggest star, when really you do have to, like, build it incrementally. So the first thing I would say is, like, let's define, like, what would that next level look like for you?
Yeah, for me, I'm definitely going through a weird transformation where I went from like only helping men and being more like flirty with my content, and now I'm like, I did some trauma release, and now I'm like, no, I want to help men and women.
Yeah, your
I want to
energy's opened
heal
up a
them
lot.
and not just share tactics and tricks. So right now I'm going through a weird transition where my audience is probably not relating to me, but for me, the more people I can get healed, it's more like I don't need the fame that's like everywhere I go people see me. I almost just want like the fame where I'm helping people.
Okay.
It's not really like,
So kind of like the go-to for what you do.
Yeah.
Like I feel like, you know, people equate Brene Brown with vulnerability and like to be equated to like you're the person who helps people heal in relationships, like that kind of thing.
yeah.
Okay. What do you think? So from then we've kind of defined it. Is there any kind of like metric that would like, is it like a more even audience size between men and women? Is it like having more clients that are doing something? Like, is there something in particular that would kind of be able to say, oh, I've like accomplished that? Yeah.
I think it would be the more people I help. So yeah, I think it'd be more subscribers to the platform, my courses.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that.
Okay. Makes perfect sense. So what do you think, especially I think it's really interesting. So what we want to do is figure out what your brain and your nervous system are afraid of by this expansion, because of course your soul wants to be seen. Your soul, like you have this beautiful mission, you've had this incredible transformation, you want to take people on that, but there's something that's going to feel unsafe or dangerous about it.
Yeah.
And our brains just want familiarity. They want to say what we've been doing in the past. We know that like what's been done in the past worked, even if it's like keeping us stuck. So what do you think, what feels dangerous, threatening, scary, different about that version of you?
What I was sharing before was more tactics, and it was easier for people to understand, like a wider audience. But now that I'm doing more like deeper spiritual work, I'm like, I want to make that understandable so bad, but then I'm like hurting myself, I think, by like trying to dumb it down.
Makes so
and not
much
speaking
sense.
normal.
Right. Well, and that's the thing is like whenever we're afraid of being misunderstood, that's when we end up like overcomplicating what we're saying, and we end up talking like robots, and it's like, what's happening here?
Yeah, it's like, where'd my personality go?
Yes.
So boring.
Yes, exactly. And then it like makes it harder to understand, and then people are like, what's going on? So, okay, so I think like part of this is just going to be like showing up as if people already understand what you're saying, and like finding and attracting the audience that does. Like, what do you think they're afraid what are you afraid that they would say about you or think about you? Like, is it like, oh, this is too woo-woo, this is dumb?
Yeah. I think right now, because I have an audience of men that were more liking me for the flirty, fun content, and then giving them tips to attract women. And now that I'm like helping both men and women, and it's like a deeper conversation. I feel like right now, the people that are with me, it's going to kind of suck. The comments right now are probably like, what's happening? Where'd the other Tash go?
Okay, I think also just like getting clear, is that actually happening, or is it a perceived? Like, are you getting those kinds of comments?
They're not bad. I think some people are like, I think they notice the transition. I'm not really getting horrible comments. Like, some people are actually excited about it. So I was like, I am getting that. But I think there's a part of me that can tell there's still some old lingering fans that are they're kind of like talking shit about how I used to be when I'm trying to be something else.
Makes so much sense.
Yeah.
What's like the worst case scenario? That they just keep talking shit? That they like post a Reddit thread? That they unfollow you?
Yeah. I think it's more, I'm seeing that I'm losing people right now.
Yeah.
And that's what is probably...
Yeah. 100%. Well, I think
because it makes me think what I'm doing now is wrong, and I'm trying to remember that it's not.
Right. And that's what, like, I think where it gets so tricky is like your soul is calling to expansion. You know that this is the thing that people actually need.
Yeah.
And yet then you start to question it. And so it kind of becomes this thought. And I see this a lot. Like, okay, the thought that most people have when they create fame or when they create success is kind of a version of like, I told you so. It's a little bit of like, and it's not in a like righteous way, but it's like, oh, I was right. Like, see, like it's finally like being reflected back. And so if you want to become a vibrational match to having people see you and believing that what you're saying is true, you have to start thinking that ahead of time of like, I am right. And like, really, I feel like you're in this position that is very transitionary, which is so common, to be clear. And everyone, no matter what size their platform is, no matter what medium they create in, everyone comes to a point where they're like, I've outgrown what I was saying, and now I'm gonna go, and now I'm different, which is just like a human thing. But in some ways, it's almost scarier to do when you have created that than when no one knows you for anything. Like, because there's this expectation that you have to live up to of yourself. There's like more on the line in so many ways. And so I think part of this though is just kind of thinking of this more like crop fire, which, to be clear, I feel like I'm in the same transition in my content. I like was like shaking this morning because I posted something and it was just a different style where I was just like, I just want this to be a little snarkier, a little more comedic, still kind of the same things, but more my personality. And like the whole time I was like, this is so stupid. I'm like shaking. I'm like, this, everyone's going to hate this. Like, and to be clear, like the more that I've leaned into my personality, numbers have gone down for sure. But I'm also now like the people who are liking me are like, oh, I love this. And so I think sometimes you have to kind of think of it like a crop fire where it's like, you do kind of just have to like burn down and like let those people go in order to then step into that like next level for you.
Yeah, I agree. Because then it's like, you're going to get people that actually like the real you. So then you can just be more authentically you and expand even more. It's like, I know that deep down, but it's funny how you work against yourself.
Well, and to be clear, the people that like are not liking this new version of you, then when you get to the next level, they're going to be like, oh, I remember her when. And like everyone's just going to pretend like most, I feel like fame, you get to a point where first you start showing up authentically and people are drawn to you. And then it creates this momentum and this like tidal wave where then people are just liking you because of herd mentality. Like, have you ever seen posts where you like it before you even listen to like what it says?
I know the person or
you just know the person. You're like, oh, she looks so pretty today or whatever. It's like people will do that too, but it really comes down to like having your own back, holding your own vision and trusting that it is right and that it's like you're safe to continue expanding and kind of like putting blinders up to the evidence in the meantime of people catching on.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Like I had to force myself because I already blocked myself from scrolling on people's social media. I even blocked every single person that I cared about seeing my post because I was like, I don't even want to like care what I'm putting out. So I fixed that. Like there's no one on there now. Like all my friends are like, you blocked me. I'm like, yes. So it's like, I don't even know what's like keeping me now. I think it's more even I'm just trying to figure out like my flow, my new niche. Cause before I was attracting people with the like outlandish, like I would say like sexual jokes or things that would just be like shocking and get their attention. And now I'm like, I don't want to be overtly sexy anymore. I was like, it's not me because the healing I've done. So now I think I'm just figuring out my new thing. But then that leads me to the question of, is there anything when creating content, like an energy to have that will help videos go more viral?
Yes. And I think also the first thing though, because your energy is always a combination of the thoughts that you're thinking and the feelings that you're feeling. So one of the thoughts that I just noticed is that your brain kind of wants it to be either sexy or healed. Right? And like maybe relying on your beauty and your sexuality is comfortable for you, but what if you actually get to be both? And like we don't have a ton of examples of that, but what if you get to be the person who says, no, like you can be healed and sexy? And what would that look like if people actually wanted both of those things from you?
Yeah, it's funny because I've been wanting to do that. There's like, because I was like, the best ideal version of my niche would be that I could be sexy, funny, and explain deeper shit, but in like a more digestible way that people like anyone could be like, oh, I was entertained and I'm learning stuff. Because I noticed even for me when I wanted to learn how to heal myself, all the people I went to, the speakers like Joe Dispenza and people like that, you have to really want to like learn it, like because sometimes it's not that entertaining,
right?
So I was like, how can I make it fun? So it's funny. It's like I know logically, but I'm like still trying to figure out. I think I just need to practice more.
Well, and I also wonder if there's any part of your identity that hasn't caught up to those things yet, because I'm just like, you are naturally funny, beautiful, and healed. So like, I guess I'm curious also if there's some sort of like feeling like you need to like prove those things or like check all of the boxes, because ultimately like the more that someone steps in, like the deeper your celebrity energy goes, which is that it factor, it really is just trusting yourself more and more and more, and being more and more unapologetic of like, this is who I am. And it's like removing all of these masks that we've put on.
Yeah.
So
I wonder if it has to do with like now that I'm bringing in females as well. Because before I think I felt comfier being sexy in front of guys. Mm-hmm. But then maybe now I have like, because I definitely have wounding from girls. So I'm wondering if now that I'm talking to girls as well, I'm like, they're going to be annoyed if I'm sexy. And I was like, why is that a thing?
Okay, yeah. So that's gonna, for sure. And that's the thing really, like when you're expanding your fame, it always comes down to three things. So the first would be fear of like the unknown, or fear of like stranger danger kind of thing of like, oh, if I pop off like in an even bigger way, what if, for me, I'm like, what if my child is unsafe then, or, you know, whatever. The second is going to be like the people in your real life having opinions about it. But then third is going to be past negative experiences. So it sounds like that's like, yeah, that would be exactly the work. And I think, I mean, obviously it's probably not the most appropriate to do on a podcast, but the work would be doing the same tools that you use, right? The like trauma release, the EMDR, those kinds of things for those woundings and for the specific things that made you feel like you can't just be beautiful and liked at the same time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, definitely. Because I definitely, now that we're talking about it, I do know I had things from when I was younger where girls would hate me because they felt like guys liked me or things like that. So then I'm like, oh, like, so being hated for that.
And I also even think that, like, to be honest, like, I think more people should be talking about that. like my friend and I, we like have to have these like kind of like real chats where we're just like, it feels like when you're an attractive person, you like, obviously there is pretty privilege, obviously. Yeah. And there also is your own or other people's perceptions of being an attractive person that people kind of stop seeing you as human. And they're like, oh, well then she must X, Y, and Z. And I think sometimes it's even about like giving yourself compassion for that. Cause it kind of feels icky to be like, oh, I'm wounded because I'm so pretty. But like that is actually a real thing. People actually do treat you differently and dehumanize you. And I mean, I just had this experience where, you know, I was going through a divorce. I had just become a mom. My business was like, I was like, I'm going to either crash and burn or I'm going to like make this work. And it was so hard and so challenging. And I felt like there were people in my life who couldn't see that I was hurting from my divorce, this was like someone who I was married to for 11 years. It was my college sweetheart. Like it was my first breakup was a divorce. And like, I felt like because I had external success in my career, but also in my like beauty, there were some people in my life that couldn't really see that I would also be hurting. Yeah. They'd be like, no, you're fine. And that's like its own form of isolation, I think. And so of course, when you've experienced that, then you're going to want to avoid that in the future by expanding into this new place where then, I mean, your brain is going to tell you like, oh, even more people are going to hate me now. Even more people are going to misunderstand me.
Oh, wow.
So it makes perfect sense that that's what your brain would want to avoid.
Oh, yeah. I've never thought about even going into the female wounding. And then even, because there's even like men that, you know, like if you act a certain way, they'll like you. So it's like you do perform for love as well. There's deeper layers to everything.
Well, and something I also think would be interesting for you and your content, like I just believe that like we can only lead people, not always, but we're going to be the best leaders when it's things that we've worked on ourselves, right? And that we can be the example of. How often do you see that this same wounding shows up in people's dating lives?
Which part?
So like, for example, I would guess my experience with dating is because I also have received this wounding where people look at me a certain way and expect certain things. I've had people assume, oh, she's this kind of person because she looks like this. And I feel like I have to actively work against that. And so then I feel like in relationships, sometimes I'm a little bit more guarded. And so it's like, I feel like you working through that in terms of fame, because it all comes down to like feeling safe receiving love, which is the same thing that like you're teaching your clients how to do, right? And so like you going through the work of receiving love, not being hated for who you intrinsically are, that's going to then I think give you more openness and more expansion in your energy to hold space for women who are going through that in their dating lives as well.
Yeah, I completely see that, because definitely whenever I would go on dates with men, even just before, there was a part of me that always felt like I had to show that, just because you saw my Instagram and it was like pretty modeling pictures. I was like, no, I have depth. Like,
oh,
I'm not just
100%.
this. Like,
100%.
And they would always tell me they were so pleasantly surprised I had a personality too.
Yes.
Like, so there's like that, trying to show that you're more, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. That like kind of like proving instead. And like my guess is, I don't know, but like in your current relationship, do you still feel like you have to prove yourself and be like, no, I have depth, I have personality?
Now no, because we both do EMDR therapy, so we talk about deep shit now, which is great. But definitely in the beginning, I definitely would go into deeper conversations a lot and prove myself a lot.
Yeah, and my guess is that like now your relationship is better than it was when you were like trying to prove yourself, right? Yeah, and so it's the exact same with fame, right? Where it's like the same thing where anytime you notice yourself trying to prove or earn or be like, no, I'm serious, like I have depth or whatever, that just is going to, it repels people.
Yeah, and it shows up in your content then. Because I was also learning that when you're seeking external validation from others, that could be holding you back from fame as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So is that similar?
Yeah, exact same thing. So anytime that you're I mean, it's kind of that idea, like with dating, I feel like you've talked about this before, how it's like, like you have to pour into yourself and that's what like makes you magnetic to other people. It's the same thing with fame. So and okay, here's a good example. So let's think about like an actor, and obviously it's a little bit different than social media fame, but if an actor is going to an audition, showing up like you're trying to get the job is different than showing up like you already have the job, right? Because when you're trying to get the job, you're thinking about, does the casting director like me? What if I'm too skinny? What if they already cast someone with my hair color? Like you're thinking about the wrong things. You're literally thinking about other people instead of doing your job, which is to show up as the character. Like you have to be so immersed in the character that they want to choose you. And that's the job of an actor, is to show up like you are that person. It's the same thing with social media. So anytime there are these little thoughts of like, and essentially what it comes down to is like when we're focused on, even at the subconscious level, the girls who hated me growing up because I'm pretty or whatever, that's the energy that people are receiving. They're not receiving the words you're saying. They're receiving this kind of guarded, like, don't hate me, take me seriously kind of thing, right? It's like the same as like on a date. It's like, I always say, it's like we have this like energetic body odor, right? That's like you go on a date with someone who checks the boxes, but if they're like really desperate, they're going to give you the ick. Yeah. It's the same on social media content. They like can't quite put a finger on why they don't like it, but it just like energetically is not. They're like, I don't know what's happening. It's a no for me, dog.
It's funny because when you're talking about it fame-wise, I do the same thing when I'm coaching people for dating. It's like pour into yourself, and like when you do go on dates, you'll be more confident and you know that you're like a prize. So then you don't have to like prove yourself to them. So it's like the exact same, except that's hilarious.
Yeah, exactly. But it is though. It's like it's the same, but it's also, you know, I think for me, dating was actually like in a lot of ways. No. Let's say in every single way, was more vulnerable for me. It has been more vulnerable for me than creating fame, because it's like that person is right there and they can see like the real you, and they can see, it's just like, oh, like, and in a lot of ways I feel like one of my friends, Maddie Webb, says this, that like before she was famous versus now, how she felt like she was a ghost, and then all of a sudden people could see her, and it was like, wait, what? And I totally felt like that in relationships, where I was like, I didn't realize that I was used to kind of putting on like the Whitney show until I had a partner who like actually sees me, and I'm like, oh, stop. I like glitch and like shut down.
No, I definitely had like a full character that I would put on when I would go on dates, because I became like, my weakness was dating, so that's why I got super into it, because I was so socially awkward. I was so shy that I couldn't even go on a date without be like, well, what is my name? Like it was just so bad. So I've been doing personal growth for a while. So then I went on dates to practice dating.
That's smart.
I went on so many, but then I came up with this whole character. I could tell was just I was like exactly what I knew people would want me to be.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's like something that I've like, I mean, they say like relationships are also just for your personal growth. And I feel like something that keeps me coming back into my relationship is I'm just like, this challenges me to be authentic more than I feel like anything I've experienced, which is like so hard and scary and like forcing me to grow. But I think also just, you know, finding a person, my friends and I joke, so in acting, when you like, you know, when someone like forgets their lines and they like start laughing, like on SNL or whatever, that's like breaking character. Yeah. And so like when you show up authentically, then and you're seeing someone who sees you authentically, I joke that that's like they're a person who makes you break character, where it's like they just kind of see through those cracks and you're like, oh shit.
So I'm curious, I definitely go into trauma release with how I help people grow, but besides just trauma release, is there ways that you rewire your brain as well for fame?
Yeah. So I think of it kind of like when you're rewiring your brain, it's like driving a car. So you have to remove your foot from the brake and put your foot on the gas, right? So the trauma release, I do EFT tapping, I do hypnosis, those kinds of things, and with my clients to help them somatically release these, you know, beliefs and whatever. And then there's also the like putting your foot on the gas, which is adding in the new beliefs as well. So I'm personally the biggest fan of hypnosis. I just think it's like so fast and easy. So I actually just created this program for my clients. It's called the Fame Switch, and it's a 21-day process where instead of like talking about the tools cognitively, it's like, no, here's the exercises. We're going to literally brainwash you into becoming famous. So it's different, like morning meditations, walking meditation, a different exercise every day, and then a nighttime hypnosis that really like gets your brain not just like releasing, getting you to like almost like normal life, I guess, if that makes sense, but then also going beyond so that you feel open and expansive to being perceived by new levels of people.
And I like that because when you're doing it throughout the day, you're like retraining your brain, because your brain already thinks like 90% of the same thoughts every day. So you're almost telling it what to think instead.
Yeah, exactly. And when you get it into that really like subliminal, that like state where you're like falling asleep or wherever, where it's really suggestible, those things will like lock in really quickly. I remember the first time that I was hypnotized, which also I feel like I was realizing, I was like, I think I need to be a little bit clearer about what hypnosis is, just for people who haven't. I don't know if you talk about it on your platforms, but I think a lot of people are like, that's absolutely a no, red flag, like will not do
see
that.
It when on the shows where people
exactly. And really it's a guided meditation. It's like a meditation with an intention. But what's so cool about it, I remember the first time that I was hypnotized, it was for basically like stage fright. And we went in and we added these new thoughts into my brain. And I remember that night at dinner, I heard myself saying one of them out loud. And it was something kind of simple. Like, it was like, I deserve to be like, to take up space or something like that. That was, again, kind of seemingly basic, but just to have that be like the thing that came out of my mouth was very eye-opening to me. I also in general just think it's fascinating to see, like, you can reveal a lot of your subconscious thoughts by having conversations with new people, especially, and they especially like around your career. If you meet someone and they're like, tell me about what you do, whatever you respond to them, those are usually your subconscious thoughts. Where it's like, if you say out like things that you might never say, like you might not want to admit that you believe about yourself or whatever, but it's these like, well, I'm kind of trying to like pivot, like, I'm doing this new thing, but like, it's cool. And like, okay, that just means your brain doesn't feel safe yet. So really kind of doing both of those at the same time with removing, those wounds, and then also adding in the supplementary thoughts.
I love that a lot. Yeah, because I did hypnosis a long time ago, and I was doing it for my shyness, because I was like, Jesus. And I wouldn't be able to connect with people too, because I have another wounding of I'm bothering them if I'm trying to connect. So common. Have a conversation.
Exist.
So everyone thought I was a bitch. They were just like, oh, she doesn't want to get to know me or talk to me. And I was like, It's the opposite. I'm trying not to bother you.
Right. And I'm sure, especially being a beautiful person, people are like, oh, terrible. She's a bitch. Yeah, exactly.
She's pretty. And then, but it was really cool to feel the feelings of the hypnosis, because I do remember after the hypnosis therapy sesh, I went and I hung out at my boyfriend's house at the time, and his roommate I never talked to, because I was always just like, leave him alone. He's in his own place. You're in their house. And then I just like started up a conversation with him and like had a deep convo, and he was sharing so much about himself. And then I knew things that even like my boyfriend at the time didn't know about him, and he was like, what? Like what? And I was like, oh, it's working. Like I got to see the feelings of it actually work.
Yes, it's wild. And I even remember, so like one of the most pivotal moments of my life was I was producing this new project, and it kind of like the project didn't center around me, but press was interested in me and my story to promote the project. And so we had an interest from Jimmy Fallon, Good Morning America, NPR, and they all wanted to talk about me. And all of a sudden I get stage fright, and I'm just like, I can't do this. So I reached out to my hypnotherapist, and what we discovered during this was that I was afraid of hurting my mom. And I was afraid if people saw who I really am, which at the time I was living, I was closeted, but I'm queer. I also was still in Mormonism, which didn't align with me. And yeah, I felt like I needed to hide who I really was, or my mom, what my brain, and I have a great mom, whatever. It's like these primal instincts that we have to not upset our parents. But the fear was, if she sees me for who I really am, I'm going to be abandoned, and that's going to lead to death. And ultimately that's always what these fears are. I'm sure it's the same in love, right? Where it's like, there's something subconscious that's making you think that if people see you, you're going to be abandoned, and abandonment means death. Wow. So it was crazy. Once I realized that, it was like, it flipped my whole life upside down, to be clear.
Because even when you've been talking now, I've realized a limiting belief that I probably have towards my growth as well and fame. Because when I grew up, I was put in special needs classes because I had ADD and they didn't know what to do with it. Mm-hmm. Like they were like, oh, you have a learning disability. So I was with actual special needs kids who couldn't really talk. So it was just me and the teacher hanging out all day. And then I had a label put on me most of my life. So I am noticing now as you speak, I think I have one where I'm scared if I speak, and I'm like, because I'm trying to help people, I'm scared if I do something wrong, they're going to find out that I'm stupid.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's 100% what it is.
Great.
Yeah. And like, how amazing that you can like see that now, because now you can like work on that. But it is, and that's the thing, is so many of these stories come from when we were children, when we were like in a very vulnerable situation. It's interesting. I have like, I feel like I've almost had the opposite of you, where I have never really had limiting beliefs that I'm smart, but I really struggle to see myself as beautiful, and really struggle to see myself as creative. And so then we rely on what was safe for us to be the coping mechanism, but that can only get you so far, right? So like relying on like, okay, and it sounds like you did a lot of work before that too, but just being like, okay, I can lean on being sexy, being funny, like those things work. Yeah. But then this one where there's a wound, it's not going to feel safe to like see that, because you experienced abandonment in the past. Yeah. Or isolation, at least.
Yeah. Are there like daily practices you can do, or can you do self-hypnotizing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I actually started just with self-hypnosis. And essentially I'm probably going to botch this. I mean, really like ask ChatGPT is probably the answer on how to do this, but you totally can hypnotize yourself. I have a client who's actually built their own self-hypnosis as they're going through my program, because there were very specific things that they wanted to change. So there's a couple pieces to it. The first is going to be what's called an induction. The induction is kind of like a process where you like take yourself into a meditative state. So, and you can look up what's an induction, or ask ChatGPT, write me an induction, whatever. And it's oftentimes like counting you back from 10 to 1. And as you go deeper, you get more and more calm. And it's really just bringing your brain down to the theta state, which is where it's the most suggestible. The second phase is going to be where you add in that intentionality, where you add in the thoughts that you're desiring to develop. And so that would be, for this client, they're specifically working on being a director. So it's like, what are the personality traits that they want to embody? What results do they want to see? How do they want people to respond to them when they walk into a room? Just different things that are like very specific to them. And then the last piece would be to like guide you back up into like a normal brain state, or to guide, like I just always am like, and now you can go to sleep. And so I'll just guide myself to go to sleep. So so my client who does this for themselves, they just recorded it. Basically, they wrote it all out and then recorded it, and they listened to it every day. I will say though, what's interesting is hypnosis, it's very powerful. And so the biggest issue isn't actually usually like the creation of it, it's the implementation of it. What I find really, really common is that when you create fame, when you're making these subconscious changes, it does kind of create this like quantum leap. And all of a sudden you're like, whoa, I'm existing in a new timeline. Like, and you're like, and that, even that feels scary to your brain. Even if it feels good, your brain doesn't really want you to stay there. So it almost is like there's also a period. You don't want to just like keep ascending without acclimating also. And like acclimating, you know, same as if you were running in, you know, I used to live in Utah. If you were running up the mountain and you weren't acclimated to the altitude, then you would just pass out. So the same kind of thing is, not to be like, be careful with self-hypnosis, but just to kind of anticipate that your brain, again, even though your soul wants to release these things, wants to change, you're fucking with your subconscious mind. Is very powerful. So that's why, you know, just something to like, I guess, keep in mind if you are hypnotizing yourself.
So like that, I was just thinking like, cause it kind of brought me back to when I did ayahuasca back in the day. When I was coming back from ayahuasca, there was like an integration process of just like, I fucked with my brain so much that I have to like, there was like 2 weeks of me just trying to like get back to normal. And like, there was a little part of me that was like, what's the point of life? And like, just going through all different phases. So is it just making sure that you almost make it safe afterwards? Like you're just bringing back that safety after you're doing so much to your brain.
And I even think it's like I also feel like with fame, it is just like a huge quantum leap. Like I even just took this trip to Cannes, and like while I was there, I got to walk the red carpet at the film festival, and I won this award. Like it was this huge just expansion. I think this is kind of with any type of expansive healing modality, is like after the expansion, then we just are going to want to kind of like collapse after that. And that's where it can kind of go into that place of like, what is real? Does anything matter? Who am I? And kind of this like existential dread, I think, is common. I've not done ayahuasca, but it sounds like very similar to those experiences. And so now I feel like part of it is also just really baking in that there does need to be some sort of integration. So for me, usually when I travel and I know it's going to be this like expansive trip, my go-to is like, and then I'll come home and I'll pick up my son from daycare and then we're going to go back to normal. And like, I can't always do that. So it's like, okay, let me come home a day earlier so that I have an extra day to catch up on rest, and let me book a massage so that I can like slowly get my nervous system, my body regulated, make sure that I'm, drinking enough water. Like actually it kind of comes down, I think, a lot to like the basic regulation tools.
Yeah, it's like self-love.
Like I feel like you kind of have to be a little bit more regimented about those when you're growing. I also notice a lot of clients feel like they need a lot of extra sleep when they're kind of like reprocessing those things.
I noticed that with EMDR. Like after I do a session of EMDR, I'm like hungry after and tired.
Yep.
And I had to tell myself like, don't talk to anyone for at least an hour, because I noticed I'll like not be my best self. I'm like mean.
No, totally.
I'm just so exhausted.
Well, and I've been working through, I haven't actually done EMDR for this, but I was diagnosed with CPTSD. So I've been doing pretty like heavy trauma, internal family systems therapy. And I had like, especially for the first like 6 months, I had to just take the whole day off after therapy.
Yeah, that's what I found with the EMDR therapy is I thought when I first was doing it, and especially you're releasing big things in the beginning, I was like, why am I like kind of like sad all the time? And I noticed it was like lingering like throughout the week. I was like, oh. And then a cool thing that did help with that was ketamine therapy. It helps with the lingering emotions. So that was very helpful. But definitely I think just realizing like, no, the growing process, especially sometimes when you're going through some deep things, like it's not going to feel, you're not going to be like amazing right after.
No. And I think also, so I did ketamine therapy and it was not the most successful for me. Not like, it just made me so sick afterward. And then it didn't, I was going because I was trying, I don't know. I guess I'm unclear. The like vein one. Like or it was like a shot.
The IV one? Oh, okay. So I did the IV.
Oh, interesting.
So I don't know if it's different, but
that could be why.
My friend told me they did the shot one and it was just kind of like, they almost just like let you go. But what was cool about the IVs, it's like a slower rise. And I don't know why that one just seemed to be like pretty great for me. The one thing I did notice is it took away my ADD, which it was cool for focusing and like creating my dating course, which was so cool because usually it would take me like almost a year to create things. And then I did it within a month because I was just so laser focused after. But the thing that sucked is it took away my humor, because I didn't notice that my brain with the ADD, I can connect different things and make them make sense into a joke. So I was like, oh, I lost my personality, and I was like a little bit sad about it.
Okay, but it felt like it came back.
It came back because the ketamine wears off after a while.
Oh. Yeah. Okay, see, this is something I feel like I've been grappling with myself, is I'm just like, am I like addicted to healing? Like to the point that it's like taking away my humanity? Like I'm like, I don't know. Like, I feel like it's interesting. I was raised being taught that, like, if you wanted to be famous, you would, like, lose yourself and, like, sell out and sell your soul or whatever. And I'm like, that's not true. But I'm like, but I do feel like I'm kind of becoming more robot. I'm like, is that, I don't know.
I definitely know I have some, I think because me thinking there was something wrong with me growing up, like my learning disability or whatever, now I'm always trying to fix me. So I know there's a push, which I like it sometimes, because I also see people around me where I'm trying to help them, or I can see what they're doing wrong, and I could tell them like something that would really benefit their lives and completely transform it, but they're like, and they don't want to do it, and you're just like, why don't you want to like try anything? Like to just try to fix it. You'd rather just be miserable and stay. It's like their comfort. They already know it.
Right, exactly.
So I do like that. I always want to like help myself. So it's like finding the balance of learning when to rest.
Yes. Well, 1,000,000%. And I think it's like, you know, those little like 1% changes. That's like just changing this one thing. It's like, okay, 20 years from now, you're going to be in a completely different place than someone who doesn't want to face things, doesn't want to work on themselves. And I'm like, okay, I think what I kind of always come back to is I'm like, well, the point of life is to have like I just want to live a full, beautiful life and have as many experiences as I can. And I think that also keeps me going, like seeing people that are just stuck and just being like, I want to get it all. Like as far as we know, we only get one life. And so, just being able to, I don't know. I think I worry sometimes. One of my biggest limiting beliefs is that my growth will cause isolation, and my expansion will, which is everyone's, right? But specifically that I'll like outgrow people, or that I won't be able to connect on like a human level, which I have experienced happening, of people getting triggered by my growth or pushing me away because, you know, or whatever. So I feel like that's always kind of like in the back of my mind.
That does. Yeah, that messed with me, because I was trying to decide if I do ayahuasca again, because I was like, now that I know about trauma release and limiting beliefs, I didn't know about that a year and a half ago.
So it would be so different.
So now I'm like, oh, if I went in, I would just master it, like, because I've learned during my ayahuasca, I know it's different for everybody, but I know how to like ask questions that I can like say like, okay, what caused me to have this like this thing that I'm trying to fix. Say it was like public speaking fear, and then it would show me the memory. So then I just write down all the memories, so then I know like I can release it in ayahuasca, or I can like do it in EMDR therapy after. So for me, it's just like a quick way to figure out where are all the things I need to heal. Okay, and then I do it.
Wait, so afterwards. What's your process for finding the moments to release? That's like
so I'll just say, what was the first memory that caused me to have this?
Just like while you're like journaling or meditating.
Thing? So because I find out new ones all the time, because I know for me that's why it's hard not to grow, because you're so self-aware. But I analyze my dreams, same. And even today I found a new one and I was like, oh, so fun. So I'll put them into ChatGPT, and then I found like a new thing that I need to work on. And recently I noticed I had sex shame, because my dad was such a strict dad, and he's Persian and Muslim, so me covering my whole body was a thing, and like he made it seem like even just being a woman is like dangerous and scary, and just so he put that all on me. So I noticed even when I was having sex afterwards, I felt shame for doing it because I'm hurting my dad or things like that. So I was like, I want to figure. So now I'm like, there's certain things I'm like, okay, I want to figure out what memory caused that. So I can pinpoint it more and go back, because I know if it's the earliest memory, it almost helps all the ones afterwards.
Totally. No, totally. I'm the same way. And I'm like, that's probably why I'm gonna always keep growing, is because it's almost like a little like video game for me to be like, let me figure this out. And like, and I even noticed that with like, I was joking about.
It's funny because that's why I have top character in the game, because I wanted to remind myself that I'm always up leveling my character.
Yes. I love that. It's new levels, new devils. Yeah. So I think that there's this common belief, like there was this article that came out about Sofia Vergara and how she made a statement that she wants to date someone who's at her level financially. And they were like, well, good luck, because she is $186 million or whatever. And it's kind of this idea of like, the more you grow, the less options you're going to have or whatever. But it's like for dating, you only need one person. Like there is at least, you know, but I think there's kind of this idea with like the more you grow, the less like options there will be in dating, in friendship, and whatever. I don't know. Have you experienced that as you've grown?
Well, what I noticed too with dating, and that's what I loved, is you just attract into your life a mirror of what you want to, what you need to learn. So if you attracted men who don't have money, it's because there's a part of you that feels like not worthy of being taken care of, or you don't think that someone can provide for you and you need to take care of yourself, depending on what your wounding was. So I noticed, though, the more healing I did, I would pay attention to what I was attracting. So the people that came into my life, I'm like, okay, what was missing, or like, what do I not like? And then I would be like, okay, that's something in me I need to heal. And then when I did the deeper, for me, men and women, it's different. For women, usually it's like our father wounds that attract how we're treated in relationships, and then your mother wound is how you love yourself.
Okay, interesting.
So then I was like, the more I did healing on my dad wounds, then I attracted exactly what I wanted in a partner. So I just feel like you become a magnet for the exact person that's perfect for you, because he has everything that I was manifesting for so long, and I was like scripting and trying so hard to manifest. And then as soon as I just did the deeper work to release the traumas that was causing me to attract emotionally unavailable men, because my dad was emotionally unavailable, then all of a sudden, I got the most vulnerable guy, like exactly what I want. We can have these deep conversations and everything that I was wanting, and more playful. Like the things I was manifesting, I finally became a magnet for, because I didn't have that
Makes so much sense.
So I was like, you literally, that's why I just feel like you can have exactly what you want. Like I know that for a fact now, but you just have to pay attention to what you're attracting. And if it's not someone that you know you won't like long term, it's not something fixable, then just notice that's probably something within yourself you have to heal.
Interesting. Okay, I love this, like, and differentiating between the mother and the father wound. So this is something I see a lot in fame. So fatherly love often, and again, obviously this is very binary, but the idea being that that's that kind of like protection, provide, like security. And then for mothers, we need like that emotional attunement and that attention. And so people who struggle with making money often have more of the father wounds, because they didn't feel safe, they didn't feel protected growing up. And people that struggle with fame, often it comes from more of like the mother, that like maternal wound. And obviously we all have both of them, right? But it's kind of it ends up being very similar, of finding like, okay, where did I, because people oftentimes they'll create fame and then they're like, wait, but there's not money here. And I'm like, yeah, because that's kind of, it's a different wound to work through. And so the idea is to continue working through both, so that you are creating and maintaining both. Yeah.
No, I did notice that, because I was seeing too, it's funny, because when I was learning about trauma release, I was thinking like, oh, but I had such a good childhood. Like, nothing really bad happened. But it's funny, the more, and also I want people to understand too that you may not remember a lot of your childhood, because I didn't. Like I was someone, I think I did out of protection. But what was so cool about EMDR was you can actually get those memories back, which was nice.
Really?
Like I was remembering the feelings I felt as like a 3-year-old when my sister was getting more attention as a baby being born. She had like ear aches, and like she was going through like a lot emotionally, and I was just like, whenever my parents showed me love, I'm like, you're faking it, you love her more than me. And I didn't know that was like a little, so I got to feel what I felt as a 3-year-old. So I was like, it's fascinating.
That is really fascinating. How does, if you don't mind me asking, how have you noticed this, that like I feel like when I talk about my work, it's really hard for my mom, because she was an amazing mom, and she was doing her best and all of that, but I think it's like hard to almost navigate that, like, yeah, you did, I love you so much, this isn't about you, and like I do have to heal from what you did to me.
That's the most awkward part, because I was like, I want to share with her because I tell her everything, but then I was like, don't take this personal. Obviously you did your best. But that's where I always remind her that I'm like, as a parent, you will fuck up no matter how much you try to be perfect. There's going to be a time where you're dealing with something and then your kid wants attention and you can't give it to them or like whatever.
Yeah.
Because we don't know. So I was like, no, it's normal. You were doing the best you could. Obviously, even today, we have way more information on like personal growth than they ever did. I'm like, how you were even doing anything.
Or like, I don't even know that like they even had the awareness that you should work on the thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. that like emotional attunement was something that a child needed.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's great. That's why I was like, the more EMDR therapy I'm learning, like all the memories I'm going back to, I'm like, I think I'm gonna be like a crazy parent where I'm like, make sure you don't traumatize them. Like I know too much now.
Oh, I am 100%, 100%.
And we're gonna have like new things that like our kids come to us with, because they're gonna be on a whole nother level.
I know.
If they're doing the therapy and stuff that we're doing now, they're gonna be like fucking levitating.
No, literally.
I'm like, they're gonna be teaching me shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't wait to hear what that is.
Yeah, same. I think something that's interesting about the idea of quantum leaping, I think it can be easy to think, or almost like misnomer to think that the quantum leap is the manifestations coming in and the like external change happening. What I consider a quantum leap is when you vibrationally change, when your energy shifts, and that happens before the actual like results come in, if that makes sense. I don't know if this has been your experience, but something that is very common for me and for a lot of my clients, especially people who have experienced trauma, grief, loss, that kind of thing, is that so I would say there's like the quantum leap. So let's use this experience I had with Can, right? Where I feel like I actually used my own processes, brainwashed myself for 21 days before that happened. And I felt like energetically, I like was in a different plane. And then we got to the festival, and actually, and it sounds kind of terrible, but I didn't really enjoy the festival that much. Like the actual 3D of it, that actually wasn't the fun part. Like it's kind of like that annoying thing where they're like, it's about the journey, not the destination or whatever. But it was a very exhausting trip. It was very, and like, again, I'm still so grateful, but I had to like intentionally root myself back into being like, this is something that you wanted. This is something you're doing. And then I also got hit with a lot of grief because for me in particular, like I lost my dad when I was 22 or 23. And so anytime I create a new level of success, it's a reminder of how long it's been since I've seen him, if that makes sense. And I think even if it's not a specific person that you're missing or whatever, I think sometimes there's like a subconscious like sadness of just the distance in like from where you were until where you're at now. And so I also think that's why it can be kind of common to almost have like a come down when you do have this big expansion. And like, yeah, I don't know. Have you ever experienced that?
Yeah. Now that you're saying that, I think I do. Because there's even times where I feel like I'm so on track with, like, I'll manifest something that I've been wanting. And I did it by, like, taking on the character every day of what, like, and that part was fun and feeling the feelings of it. And then you can get there and then be like, okay, now what? And
yes. Yes, exactly. And it's almost this, like, where do I go from here? And I actually experienced this like very existential sadness. It was the first time that I think it was the first time that I'd made 6 figures in 1 month. And it was a big, and I had also had, I think that was when my ex finally agreed to our divorce. So like I was kind of getting out of the weeds with that and just had a bunch of kind of like positive things. The divorce ultimately, I guess, was positive, but it was really hard. But then I like had this big crash. And I think part of it was also realizing like, oh, there's no circumstance I can create that's going to make me feel better.
Yeah.
And that almost came with its own kind of grief, which I feel like I've helped a lot of celebrities when it ends up being me referring them to therapy because they've reached this like mountain, they've reached something that they've been working so hard for, and they're like, it didn't make me feel better, so maybe nothing will. And then it kind of becomes this like, wait, what is there to live for? And I fully like crashed out after that. Like there was a few months and that's ended up being when I was diagnosed with CPTSD and when I got back into therapy and tried ketamine therapy and all of the things. And I'm so grateful that it put me on that path of just to kind of redefine what it is. But it does kind of, I think, change your perspective to have achieved something and then be like, oh, that's it. And I'm still human, and I still am just existing in the world, doing my thing.
I think that was what was hard too, is the goals that I kept on achieving, no matter how many goals like I got to, there was still like this underlining emptiness. And the only way that I've figured out like enjoying that time more and not worrying so much about each goal was, I think it was the EMDR therapy and just learning, like being genuinely curious about healing new things and just knowing that I'll forever be healing, that it's like always a process. But I think having every morning, what I notice is I'll script, and I started scripting again. I stopped for a little bit, but it was just like writing my future as if I had it now, but kind of just like the next step, because I noticed with manifesting, if I go too far, I can't believe it. So I was like, just the next step, like what's something next that I wanted, and then just acting as if I was in that place. But something about hearing my goals every day, because they change, and that's why I like the scripting, because you'll reach new ones and you get to see them happen quicker because you're only doing the next step, so you're like encouraged. So something about that made me feel less depressed, because I didn't feel so lost after like achieving a certain goal or things like that, because I would go to my list and I'm like, ooh, but I have this next, or I have this. So I think something about always keeping, like, I have just like a list of like 10 things that I know I want to achieve, so even if one gets achieved, I'm like still excited for other things.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
And then I didn't feel lost, because there would be times where if I didn't remind myself of my path every day, like at least 5 days a week I'll do it, and the weekends I'm like, enjoy your weekend. But when I would stop doing it every morning, I noticed that I did feel lost. Like, what's the point? And I would go into like autopilot. And
yes, I think I do. I think that's kind of also what is something that I need to like implement more, is just my own self development. Or like, I think it can sometimes be easy to be like, I'm a coach, I know these things, instead of just like actually applying them every single day. And I think it can be easy to use, you know, we're all busy, but to be like, well, I'm a single mom, I'm extra busy, I can't, you know, whatever. But I feel like I have these moments every once in a while where it's like, actually, I feel like it's very frequently. It's like every 3 days, I'm like, Whitney, you lost the plot. Like, get back to your work. And I think that, you know, something that helps now is that I have a team that can hold space. I have friends that like see me for where I'm at. And so when they can kind of hold the vision, then that helps. But it's like it's been fat. And I obviously, like, I think I've been through a very traumatic period the last like 5 years. And so I know that part of this is just like continuing to release those things and childhood things and ongoing. But I do feel like part of it is just continually like coming back to the work and coming back to the vision and being like, this is who we are. Like,
I have to like set up little things for me. Like, even when I script, I set the timer for like 10 to 15 minutes. Yeah. Because then I can tell myself like, it's 10 minutes, Tash. Like, just,
you can do 10 minutes. Yeah, that's really smart.
And so I trick myself with things like that. Or I'll use like beliefs where I'm like, do you want your whole day to go perfect, or do you want it to just be like a whatever day? Like, because I do notice that's how I got myself to work out, is I was like, it like fixed my energy. So the whole day I was in a better mood, so I was manifesting better things. And I was like, wouldn't you want to manifest better things all day? Just work out, move your body, do something, go on a walk. So I do that with even scripting. I'm like, why wouldn't you want everything that you want to come to you? Like, I just convince myself I'll have that little, you're just going to have an average day, or you can have a really fucking great day.
You like reverse psychology yourself. You like bait a good day in front of you. You're like, come on.
Yeah, little tips. But yeah, definitely as a woman though, I do notice there are periods where even when I'm starting my period or things like that, I have to learn a thing that I found out, a limiting belief I figured out through a dream, was that I think if I'm not grinding or working hard, that things aren't going to come to me. Oh, so same. If I rest, like I feel guilty the whhole time I'm resting. Like, I can't really like enjoy a vacation or things like that. Or even just, I get really tired on my period. So I was like, I wasn't working out as much. And I'm like, you're a loser. And I just like being so mean. Yeah. And I was like, nothing's going to come to you. And then if I'm thinking that, I'm really not manifesting money. I'm really not, things aren't coming to me. So now I've been trying to ingrain that new belief that like I'm in receiver mode when I'm resting. Like, a lot of things are coming to me.
I love that.
I'm coming up with new ideas when I'm resting, because I do, and I get re-motivated about life when I rest. So yes. I'm like, otherwise, I feel like I'm just on autopilot I would like
Totally.
keep doing the same thing if I don't take a second to be like, okay, hold on, let me see what I'm doing.
Take a step back. And yeah, no, I think that's so important and something worth remembering. I like have been coaching my clients on this idea of celebrity summer and like how, because it's really easy, I think, in the summer for people to, you and I will just blow past vacations and be like, I'm just gonna like, you know, but we stay on autopilot. But then there also are people that are like, well, it's summer, I'm off, like I'm not doing this anymore. And I think that the sweet spot is detaching the results that you want from the time and the effort that you're taking, and instead like building the belief of like, no, I get to have it all comes to me when I rest. Like it gets easier. But yeah, I feel like, I don't know, I think all of this conversation is just revealing to me, I'm like, I gotta lean into these tools more, because I feel like I'm really good at teaching them, and I'm like, do I practice them? Kind of.
That's why the timer effect, that worked so well
that's
for me.
really
If I
good.
set time, I'm like, oh, I could do that 10 minutes, that's fine. Or like leave it out. Like Atomic Habits is a great book whenever you're like feeling like you're not disciplined. It tells you little tips and tricks to use to get yourself
Amazing.
like, regimented. But yeah, learning though, like even with my ADD though, I have times where I can be very motivated and work really hard, and then some days I'm like, it's hard for me to like focus, so I have to do other things. So I'm like, I'm noticing with me, my day may change depending on how my ADD is that day.
Makes so much sense. Yeah.
I was gonna ask you, there is like a common thing with social media where people feel like if I'm not posting every single day or like 3 times a day and things like that, do you think that really does affect people's fame, or do you think it's more energetic?
I think it's energetic. And listen, that's what my soul knows. That doesn't mean I do this perfectly, because even right now we're building out our new social media processes and teams, and it's kind of in flux from what we had been doing a month ago. And I'm like, where is the post? We need something to come out every day. And I'm like, I know that it's more about my energy, and it would be better to have one really potent post in a week. But then and truthfully, like I built my following, I built to 100K on TikTok posting. I set the parameter that I was like, I'm gonna post 3 times a week, and that's it. And I was like, but I'm gonna like lock in, I'm gonna ground into my energy, I'm gonna practice what I preach, and I'm gonna really like lock in. And that's how I did it. And I didn't have time for anything else. I was going through a divorce. I was, had a baby, like, and so, but it can still now feel,
you're like, it worked before, I need to keep doing
I'm like, why am I confusing myself? It's like easier said than done. But yeah. And I think part of it is also detaching. Another belief that I've had is that my views are a direct reflection of how much money I'm making, which is easy for me to think that, because it's like, oh, a viral video does usually bring in new clients. But also believing, like letting go of that belief that like the hard work, the number of posts, what if like that's detached? What if that's completely irrelevant from the actual like money that I'm bringing in?
Yeah.
So I'm like testing the limits on that one as well.
That's really cool. So to conclude everything, I just wanted to ask you one question. Is there anything you're working on now that you would want to share?
In what sense?
I think it just shows that like we're always like forever growing. We're always like working on ourselves, but it doesn't need to be like anything too crazy.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's interesting. I think this is also kind of where my brain has been feeling split and divided, is that I finally feel like I have enough space and creativity to get back into acting and writing. And so that's kind of where I'm expanding into next. So starting to find agents, production companies, that kind of thing for the projects that I have. So that feels, it's wild, because I think most people would look at what I've done and they're like, yeah, you should do that. Like, go off. And yet my identity is like, wait, can I do both? I don't know.
All right. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you being here, and let them know where they can find you.
I am at Whitney Uland on social media. My website is howtobefamous.org, and my podcast is How to Be Famous with Whitney Uland.
And I'm at Tash at 9 p.m. Thank you for joining us.